The Grand Canyon looks open, wide, unrestricted. Millions of people stand at the viewpoints every year. They look out over the edge and believe they are seeing everything. They are not. The canyon is not hidden. It is filtered. Certain areas are emphasized. Others are quietly avoided. When people ask about those places, they are told it is dangerous, that they cannot go any further. But over the years there have been reports, restricted zones, unexpected enforcement, and questions that never get answers. Tonight, we are not looking at what the Grand Canyon shows you. We are looking at what it does not. Are you ready? Turn off the lights, turn up the volume, and hold on to your pillow. Because after this video, you may never look at this place the same way again. The viewpoints never face these areas. If you spend enough time at the South Rim, a pattern starts to emerge. Every official viewpoint points in a similar direction. Wide horizons, open space, safe distances. What they do not face are the lateral sections of the canyon, the folded walls, the recesses that disappear sideways into shadow. Those areas exist. They are massive, and they are rarely centered in any official view. This is not obvious at first. Most visitors are focused on the scale, the depth, the spectacle. But some people notice the repetition, the same angles, the same compositions, over and over again. When a few visitors try to step away from those viewpoints, even just to look from a different angle, they are often stopped. Not aggressively, not dramatically. They are told the same thing. It is a risk area. The terrain is unstable. You cannot go any further. That explanation is always enough to end the conversation. What makes it unsettling is how selective the concern appears to be. From above, the restricted sections often look no different from areas that remain open. Same rock, same slope, same exposure. Yet one direction is encouraged, and another quietly shut down. This is where stories diverge. Some visitors claim they were redirected immediately, before they even reached the edge. Others say rangers appeared faster than expected, as if they were already nearby. No one agrees on why. Over time, rumors began to form. That certain angles were avoided for reasons unrelated to safety. That some sections of the canyon were never meant to be observed closely. That what lies there does not fit the version of the Grand Canyon shown to the public. Nothing confirmed. Nothing documented. Just repetition. The same viewpoints, the same warnings, the same directions you are allowed to face. And once you notice that, the question becomes difficult to ignore. If the canyon is truly open, why are so many directions quietly closed to curiosity? Because beyond those controlled views, there are areas where access is not just discouraged, it is enforced. Areas you are told not to ask about. Some areas of the Grand Canyon are not just closed, they are quietly removed from conversation. Visitors who wander too far from marked routes often describe the same moment. A ranger approaches, calm, professional. There is no accusation, no confrontation, just a sentence. This area is restricted. It is unsafe. You need to turn back now. Most people do. What happens next is rarely discussed. Those who ask follow-up questions rarely get them answered. There is no map to point at, no detailed explanation. Just repetition, risk area, unstable terrain, for your safety. But this is where the stories start to drift. Some visitors claim the restriction made little sense. The ground appeared stable. The terrain looked no different from nearby open areas. Others report being warned not to return to that direction again. Not advised. Won't. This is where rumors begin. Over the years, there have been quiet accounts of restricted research zones inside the canyon. Areas used for studies never described to the public. Temporary facilities that do not appear on visitor maps. Nothing officially confirmed. Nothing officially denied. A few former visitors believe these zones are shared with other agencies. Not for tourism, not for education, for purposes that do not require public explanation. Whenever these rumors surface, the response is always the same. The area is dangerous. Access is prohibited. Do not go further. No elaboration. What unsettles people is not the restriction itself. It is how quickly curiosity is shut down. In a park designed for exploration, some questions are treated as risks. And once you cross that line, the conversation ends. Because deeper inside the canyon, there are places where restriction is not subtle at all. It arrives fast. The areas where guards arrive too fast. There are places in the Grand Canyon where curiosity does not last long, not because people lose interest, but because someone shows up. These are not crowded trails, not scenic overlooks. They are remote stretches of canyon, far from visitor centers and main routes. And yet, when someone crosses an invisible line, the response is immediate. Visitors describe the same experience. They are not lost. They are not injured. They are not causing damage. They are simply exploring. Then a ranger appears, sometimes on foot, sometimes from a direction that makes no sense, as if they were already nearby. There is no panic, no raised voices, just authority. You cannot be here. This area is restricted. It is unsafe to continue. The speed of these encounters is what unsettles people. In a canyon this vast, help is usually slow. Search and rescue operations can take hours, sometimes days. But in these areas, enforcement feels precise, almost rehearsed. This is where stories diverge. Some visitors believe these zones are monitored. Others say they noticed equipment nearby, small devices, unmarked, easy to miss. No one agrees on what they saw. What they do agree on is that they were stopped before reaching anything significant, as if reaching it was the real concern. When questions are asked, the explanation never changes. Risk area, unstable ground, for your safety. No additional details. Over time, rumors begin to form that these sections are not watched for tourists but for something else. Research installations, temporary facilities, joint operations involving agencies that never appear on park brochures. Nothing proven, nothing documented, but the pattern remains. Some areas are ignored, others are quietly watched. And when you step into the wrong one, you find out very quickly, because whatever lies beyond those invisible boundaries matters enough to stop people before they get close. The canyon areas that officially do not matter. Most places inside the Grand Canyon have names: cliffs, buttes, plateaus. Even minor formations are labeled, catalogued, and explained, but not all of them. Between famous landmarks, there are wide sections of canyon with no names at all, no signs, no plaques, no stories attached to them. They exist on maps as empty space. To most visitors, that absence feels normal. If something mattered, it would be labeled. If something was important, it would be explained. That assumption is comfortable. It may also be wrong. Some hikers and river runners have noticed how often these unnamed zones appear near restricted areas. Not always inside them, but close. Close enough to act as buffers. This is where stories diverge. Some believe these unnamed sections are deliberately left out of the narrative, not because they are dangerous, but because drawing attention to them would raise questions. Questions about what lies beyond or beneath. Over the years, there have been quiet rumors. Nothing documented, nothing confirmed. Claims of temporary installations that appear and disappear. Areas cleared of markers, as if they were never meant to be referenced. Spaces used briefly, then returned to silence. Whenever these areas are mentioned to park staff, the response is familiar. There is nothing there. No reason to stop, no reason to ask, but that response itself feels rehearsed. In a park built on interpretation and education, silence usually means avoidance, not ignorance. What unsettles some visitors is how quickly attention is redirected away from these zones. Look over here. Follow the trail. Stay with the group. As if wandering too far into the unnamed breaks an unspoken rule. Some believe these areas serve a purpose. Not as destinations, but as space. Space to separate. Space to isolate. Space to ensure that whatever lies deeper inside the canyon remains out of sight. No one can prove that, and no one openly supports it, but the pattern remains. Named places are shown. Unnamed places are passed over, and in a landscape as controlled as the Grand Canyon, leaving something unnamed can be a decision, because once a place has no name, it has no story. And without a story, it becomes easier to pretend it does not matter, until you notice how often the most restricted areas are surrounded by silence. Rumors of facilities hidden below the rim. There are parts of the Grand Canyon where the conversation changes, not publicly, quietly. Over the years, visitors, hikers, and river runners have shared similar accounts, always informal, always incomplete. They describe seeing things that do not belong in an untouched landscape, straight lines where nature favors curves, metal surfaces catching light deep below the rim, structures that look temporary but deliberate. Access to these areas is always blocked, not with fences, not with signs, with people. Those who attempt to get closer report the same response. They are stopped, told the area is dangerous, that conditions are unstable. They are instructed to turn back immediately. This is where stories diverge. Some claim they overheard references to research zones. Others mention being told the area was being used for what is never clarified. A few believe these sections are connected to scientific work never discussed publicly, experiments that require isolation, distance, and silence. Others go further. They talk about military involvement, temporary bases, joint operations hidden inside restricted canyon walls. Nothing proven, nothing acknowledged, but also nothing clearly denied. What gives these rumors weight is not a single story. It is repetition. Different people, different years, different parts of the canyon, similar descriptions, and always the same outcome. You cannot go further for your safety. No photographs allowed, no explanation offered. In a park where history, geology, and wildlife are constantly explained, these moments stand out. They are not framed as education. They are framed as liability. And liability is often the easiest way to end curiosity. Some believe these facilities no longer exist. Others believe they are temporary by design. Set up, removed, replaced, leaving no trace except memory. What unsettles people is not the idea of research itself. It is the secrecy surrounding it. Because if these were ordinary scientific projects, there would be no reason to hide them. And yet the deeper you look into these reports, the more consistent one detail becomes. Whatever exists below the rim, it is not meant to be approached. And it is not meant to be discussed. Because beyond these rumored facilities, there are parts of the canyon that are not just restricted, they are barely documented at all. The parts of the canyon that are never documented.
Are you sure we didn't miss that turn?
For a place studied as long as the Grand Canyon, the lack of documentation in certain areas is difficult to ignore. There are sections of the canyon with no recent public footage, no detailed ground-level images, no clear visual record, not old history, current absence. These are not small pockets of land, some stretch for miles. Entire regions that exist only as outlines on maps. Officially, there is nothing unusual about this. Access is difficult. The terrain is dangerous. Documentation is unnecessary. That explanation is always enough, until you start comparing. Nearby areas, just as remote and just as hazardous, have photographs, expedition records, public research summaries. These do not. This is where stories diverge. Some believe there is nothing to see, just rock, just silence. Others believe the lack of images is the point. Over the years, rumors have circulated quietly, claims that certain areas are kept undocumented on purpose. That recording activity is discouraged. That presence alone is enough to draw attention. A few visitors say they were warned against filming, not formally, not aggressively, just advised that it would be better not to. The reason is never explained. Drones are prohibited across the park. Off-trail travel is restricted. Aerial access is tightly controlled. All normal on paper, but taken together they create something unusual. A place that exists but leaves no record. In an era where almost everything is documented, absence becomes noticeable. And when absence repeats itself, it stops feeling accidental. Some believe these areas are used intermittently, activated, then abandoned. Others think they serve as isolation zones, places where activity happens briefly, without witnesses, without documentation. Nothing confirmed, nothing traceable. Just a pattern. The deeper the canyon, the quieter the record becomes, until eventually there is nothing left to reference at all. No images, no stories, no explanations, only restrictions, and the reminder that in the Grand Canyon, what you are not allowed to document may matter more than what you are. The Grand Canyon is often described as open, explored, understood, but that description depends on how much you are allowed to see. Across the canyon, the pattern repeats. Areas quietly avoided, questions redirected, access denied in the name of risk. Some places are shown again and again. Others never face the camera, never enter the story. Officially, there is nothing unusual about that. Unofficially, the silence feels deliberate, not because of one secret, not because of one explanation, but because of how consistently curiosity is stopped before it goes too far. Maybe there is nothing hidden at all. Maybe these areas are exactly what they appear to be. Or maybe the Grand Canyon is not meant to be understood as a whole, only in fragments, only from a distance. Because in a place this vast, control does not need fences. It only needs limits and authority. Which part of the canyon do you think is kept out of sight? The rumored facilities, the undocumented depths, or the areas people are told not to ask about? If you have ever visited the Grand Canyon, did anything feel off to you? Anything that did not quite add up? And if there is another national park where access feels selective and questions feel unwelcome, leave it in the comments. Some places are protected for safety, others are protected for silence, and sometimes the difference is never explained.